Farlands or Bust stream, stardate 2020 10/31, number 804.5. That's right. It's been very long since apparently episode 799.5, since we've done just a casual Farlands or Bust stream. But we're going to do one now. Today is Halloween. And a warning, if you're watching this later or if you're just joining us on stream, I have words that need to come out of my mouth, thoughts even, scary things, Halloween things, regarding current events, news, politics, elections, COVID, whatever, the year 2020, let's just call it. So I realize some folks come to Minecraft Let's Plays or streams or whatever to escape from that stuff, so I don't blame you. If you don't want to watch this, this is my warning, content warning. It's up to you if you want to stick around at all for this, and I don't blame you. You're not going to miss anything if you don't. So it's good to get this stuff out into the oxygen, and it may contain content. Yes, it may. So I just wanted to warn before we begin, and honestly, Farlands or Bust is kind of my only off-the-cuff, vloggy sort of content where this can belong. And we're just going to get started, all right? Let's go. Get your wolves ready. Woof! There it is. All right, we can begin. My inventory is very full. Oh my. I don't know why I forgot the jitter is so extreme. It's been far too long, I suppose. Let's grab Wolfie. Looks like I already got rid of a bunch of stuff I don't need. West is that way. Woof woof. Woof woof. So yeah, it's been a while since we've done Farlands or Bust stream. I was going to do an episode, but we don't have any new donations to the charity, which is fine. We just did have the Mindcrack Marathon, so I understand if everybody's pretty well spent on the charity stuff. That's probably a good reason enough. But yeah. Hello. Happy Halloween. Stuff's weird, ain't it? Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about some reasonable anxieties and thoughts regarding the state of affairs in the world and the United States. I don't even know where to begin. I don't have like an outline or like anything regarding, but yeah, it's real tough. It's real tough. I do remember there was an episode of Farlands or Bust. I think it's called Wash Your Hands. I don't know what episode number it is, but it was right as we were starting to hear about COVID, and I think the thing we said was, if you're worried about it, maybe don't worry so much about it. But if you're not worried about it, maybe you should be worrying about it. I think that was the thought of the day. But I don't think anybody... Well, people did, I suppose, have an idea. They had a very concrete idea. But anybody in the general public, us and those watching included, had any idea. Perhaps everybody wasn't worrying about it enough. So yeah, it's one of those hindsight thingies. And then it also makes me think about 4 years ago. I don't know how many of you were here for when I was streaming on election day 4 years ago. I don't even remember what I was streaming. I know I stopped streaming before the election had been called. But that was a very topsy-turvy time, wasn't it? And like after that, I suppose everybody seemed to be in like sort of the a state of denial. And I did record, was it a Far Lands or Bust, or maybe it was just a stream, where I was talking about this stuff, and I got the whole, you know, all the replies, stick to video games, you know, very limited few people like that. Middle of nowhere, on a large farm. Well, I mean, to each their own, and if certainly that takes a specific amount of resources to just pick up and hide, that might be a little bit overreacting in my current opinion. But yeah, after the election, I guess I was too kind, perhaps. I was too kind. I was like, hey, listen, if you voted for Trump, you're still welcome here. You know, trying to be inclusive, the bargaining phase. But obviously, he and his party turned out to be exactly who we thought they were. And I don't believe that excuse is valid anymore. You can't claim ignorance anymore. It's really troubling. Still, despite everything, that tens of millions of Americans are still going to vote for him. And I just want to shake those people very hard. Very, very hard. So, I think a lot of this idea to talk about this was sparked. I was driving the Datsun around, and the further away you get from Seattle, it gets very red very fast. And I saw my first Trump truck, which is a big pickup truck with giant Trump flags and American flags and whatever the blue line flag is, driving around. And it got to me, and I'm like, you know what it is for that person? For that person, it's sports. It's not like they're so ingrained in that personality. It's like having a bunch of Seahawks flags or whatever sports teams flags up, or to the point where it's like wearing the opposing team's jersey or hat to an away game and being like, look at me, I'm the away team, everybody here hates me, look at me. That feels a lot like what those types of Trump supporters are. And honestly, he and the Republican Party have tapped into that kind of primal tribalism, sports like, to the point where, yeah, the intricacies of like, this person is actually representing us on a global international scale and in control of the military and changing the rights of people's lives that they have and suppressing voting and the Constitution and stuff like that. To them, it's a sport. And that is very unfortunate that they have bought into that. And then it just turns into like defending the Confederate flag. And so, yeah, I mean, I can't explain it. I don't understand it. Other than that, there were no excuses before. We all knew who he was. We all knew who the Republican Party was. But now, definitely, if you're voting for Trump, you yourself are aligned with all of those values, if not privileged enough to be able to ignore the racism, the homophobia, the sexism, the, all the just all the stuff. Separating kids from parents and putting them in cages. Like, that's all the isms, yeah. So that's really frustrating and annoying. And as somebody who I'm overly empathic, I try to understand that, but there is no understanding it. There is no, like, I can't. And I think that's where that's like the roadblock for me. It's like, usually if I see a homeless person on the side of the road, no matter how they end up in there, you know, whether or not they're simply trying and on hard times, or maybe they have a drug problem or abuse or whatever, I try to put myself in their shoes and I empathize. And in that case, it makes me uncomfortable to empathize with that. But yeah, that's rough. That's rough. I can't with that idea. I can't in that regard. I can't. There's no empathizing or putting myself in those shoes because it's beyond me. And I think that's also a problem with, I don't know, I don't want to say Democrats or just the opposing ideals, is that a lot of, say, more centrist voters and citizens and people can't possibly believe that anybody would be that evil. Evil, I'm not going to use the word evil, because evil is like a cop-out, I feel like. Ooh, evil.
At this time of year.
At this time of, oh, Fedrin. Oh, no.
Country, localized entirely within your kitchen.
Hi, Fedrin and Fedrin Raiders, Fedrin Nation. We're having serious talk, trademark. Very serious talk. Look at all those burbs. Look at all those burbs. Let's go to sleep. And we'll continue serious talk in the morning. Oh, I don't normally snore during the live streamed stuff. But hello, yes, I was saying I did before I started streaming this. Oh, that was 4 blocks. I'm talking about 2020. Specifically, the last 4 years of 2020. The election, all that stuff. Just getting stuff off my chest. I don't know if it'll help people to realize that they're not the only ones having these sorts of thoughts. Just like getting, you know, frustrations out, anxieties about the coming weeks out, the coming years. So I understand if you're just joining us and that's not the sort of thing you want to listen to. I totally understand. You're allowed to leave. But we're just doing this today. So yeah, it's a weird, oh dang it, it's a weird, tough thing. 2020 sure does feel like it's been going on for 4 years, right? So yeah, and it's not just the guy at the top, Trump. It's the whole party that has rallied underneath him. You know, there's all these clips pre-Trump of all these Republican senators saying he's a horrible guy and racist and xenophobic, and now they're all like, he's doing what we want him to. See you, Fedrin. Thank you very much for the host and raid. So yeah, it's I obviously already voted. Whoa, surfing. We do vote by mail here, and I'm still seeing stuff on Twitter. I'm trying my best not to be doom scrolling, but seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter about how even still Republicans in Texas are trying to invalidate mail-in ballots with their conservatively appointed judges. And, you know, because that's now swing states. So yeah, it's Yeah, it's what was I saying? So yeah, it's worrying. It's worrying. Like right now from where we stand, it looks like Biden is going to win. And I certainly hope that's the case. But because of all the mail-in and absentee ballots, we're not going to know for days after the election, if not weeks after the election. And that's a big state of limbo, I feel, that the country is going to be put in. And the worrying scenario... The worrying scenario is if on election night, the live votes make it look like Trump is winning, and then in the coming weeks, when all the mail-in ballots get counted, the true results of Biden winning comes out, because then Trump, the Republicans, and all of his supporters will cry foul. So yeah, I don't know. I don't expect any sort of civil war or anything like that, but it's tough to think that he's going to give up. He and the Republicans are going to give up so easily. Since everything said so far, and even since the previous election, says that at the drop of a hat, he will question election results if they don't favor his liking. So it's tough. It's like like I said, this is back to that pre-COVID thing. If you're worrying about it, you hopefully don't have to be worrying about it that much. But if you're not at least thinking about it, maybe you should start thinking about it. And then, yeah, and then there's still 2 more months where who knows what could happen. And at that point, you know, who's on the side of transition of power? The cops? The cops aren't on our side, that's for sure. The judges have all been picked out by him and the Republicans, including the now 3 Supreme Court justices slots that they've stolen. So yeah, there's a lot of unlikely scenarios, but I feel like more likely than people realize. It is kind of, people in America have been lulled into comfort, whether it be material or media or whatever, in their daily lives. Which makes it ripe and easy for the democracy to be taken and changed. Secret Service can throw them out the door, but whose side are they on? They're all cops and ex-military and stuff. I mean, just thinking about like Russia and how Putin has now effectively taken unlimited control. It's like, oh, he was president for his 2 terms, and then he put his friend in the office, and then they changed the laws so he could be president again. And then earlier this year, had the entire Senate resign so that he could rewrite the entire Constitution, which now says he can be president forever. Oops. You know, and that happened in the span of a couple decades. Gopia, thank you for 2 months in the sub-tub.
At this time of year, at this time
Pack
of
Rat,
day,
this
in
is the
part of
second.
country, localized entirely within your kitchen.
This is the second raid of the day. Welcome, Pack Raiders. Much appreciated. welcome to this very, very serious walk and talk in Far Lands or Busts. Hope you had a good stream. So yeah, like I'm not doing this. I'm not conspiracy theorizing, but it is also a good long one. Nah. Well, thank you very much. We are talking about real life and news, current events, politics stuff. So, while I certainly welcome all of the raiders, that's just a heads up in case that's not the sort of thing you want to see on your Twitch right now. I don't blame you at all. Oh yeah, definitely the minority rule, the electoral college, the gerrymandering. These are all problems that aren't going to be fixed. Say if when Biden gets the presidency over the next 4 years, or even perhaps over the next 4 decades. But it's hard. It's even harder to do those things when the people in power are making the stream rush harder against you, I suppose, and making it more difficult to move the needle in a better direction. And yeah, and I've seen all this like vote, go out and vote. No matter, make a plan to vote early, vote. Avoid crowds and stuff. Despite a lot of places making it impossible to do so because they want to suppress your vote. Go out and vote. But also, I do feel like there needs to be a recognition of how voting and the electoral system that we have is how we got in this problem in the first place. So it's totally acceptable for someone, particularly those in the marginalized groups and in the groups who are actively being suppressed in their voting, to not really be trusting of the process. That is a very valid perception, because even as we're talking, even if everybody does vote and Democrats and Biden do win the vote, we are still unsure if that's actually going to change things. So it's totally reasonable to kind of be sick of hearing everybody saying voting's going to fix everything. Let's go to sleep. Yeah, I dropped my ballot off at a drop box, which was hilariously next to a garbage bin. But well, I mean, yeah, again, I'm not like conspiracy theorizing or thinking there's going to be a civil war, but I think like the fajitas changing the tone of things with a bath bomb. Thank you very much, fajitas, for those 5 gift subs. So yeah, like the inequality in wealth in America is far greater than it was during the French Revolution. And that's what I mean about like today, people are a lot more placated in their lives, and for the majority of people, things haven't changed much. For me, as a white male, living in a democratic state, things haven't really changed much. My insurance is going up, yes. Oh, and also that little side note of 250,000 people dying to a pandemic. That, I suppose, changed something a bit. So I think that's kind of the one thing where it is actually... people have noticed the change. It's just whether or not they blame those in charge for the change that we have this year specifically. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there is a fun little clause in the Constitution that citizens... I see the conversation about, like, revolution and political violence. There is a clause in the Constitution that says citizens not only have the right, but are obligated to overthrow a government that does not represent them. It's an obligation. Like, it's not just like, yeah, you can. No, it's like, that's your duty. Whether or not people in these modern, mostly comfortable times would take that up if the literal shit hits the fan, I don't know. Oh, it might have been the Declaration of Independence, or it's in the Constitution. I don't remember. You'll have to look that up. So yeah, just a lot of weird stuff happening. Just a lot of weird stuff. And that's troubling. It's very troubling. And frustrating. But it's like this low-level, constant frustration and individually feeling no power to change things. Sort of. I mean, it did feel somewhat powerful when, like, the Black Lives Matter protests were happening. But again, that's still going on, but it's hard to maintain that level of awareness and anxiety at a constant level. It's a real thing, huh? And then, like, that's not even, like, COVID. This is real bad. Today wasn't it the PM of the UK, or not the United Kingdom, but of Britain at least. They're gonna initiate new lockdown procedures. And the the U.S. rates are the highest they've ever been. So that's far from over too. That's very far from over. And like, I'm still, like, we went out. I feel guilty for doing things. We went out and we picked pumpkins at a pumpkin patch. That was a bit too crowded for my personal liking. We all wore masks and stuff, and we weren't there that long. But, like, I feel guilty doing stuff like that because of all the people I hear about, like, oh, my dad died and we couldn't have a funeral. We couldn't say goodbye. Somebody that the girlfriend knows, their husband had cancer and, like, took a really wrong turn, so he had to go to the hospital, and they were pretty much like, okay, we'll let you know. You can't stay here with him. And he died from his cancer, not COVID, just alone in the hospital while the family couldn't be there. So I feel super guilty doing anything at all. But at the same time, it's kind of hard not to. And honestly, I haven't said this, but my older sister got it. And to be honest, I was pretty worried she was going to die because she has very severe asthma. She's had it her entire life. So that was super scary for me. And this was like back in April, May, something like that. She made it through and has recovered, although I haven't spoken to her recently. I don't know if she has any of those lingering side effects they're all talking about now that are afflicting COVID patients. Those have been diagnosed with it. Somehow my dad didn't get it. My sister lives with my dad. And he's in his 60s. Certainly, I'm worried about my mom. She's in her 60s. She has the same, if not worse, asthma than my sister has. It's genetic. She's in her 60s. And her partner works in a hospital. And, basically has to decontaminate every time he gets off of work. So yeah, it's still super spooky. And now our government's, or the White House, the plan is to just let it run wild. And herd immunity. So yeah, I'm sure there are many people watching, many people in chat who might have even lost people to it, and to that, I'm very sorry. So yeah, herd immunity. Yeah, that's so dumb. What is it, like 60% of people have to get it, and that would be like 3 million dead based on the death rates? Like, what's too many? Perhaps another like Holocaust worth of dead just for herd immunity? What's that? So it's really frustrating. That is definitely feels like out of control, out of our control. Like, as individuals, we can do what we can, but that's what a government is there for. Like, the government, it's this whole separation of government and people that gets a lot of people, it's supposed to be us. Like, they are our collective workings outs of these problems. Like, that's what they're there for. And if we can't depend on them to do what's right, even if to us it doesn't seem right, that's why they're the experts. Or they should be the experts, or they should be consulting with the experts instead of ignoring the experts. Oh, careful, Wolfie. What was that? You all right there? Oh, yep, he's over there. Alright, let's get to the top of this hill. Need to make a couple more beds. So yeah, that's like okay. Oh, I need beds. Biden becomes president. Democrats take the Senate. We're still going to have this COVID thing to deal with. It's very much not going anywhere anytime soon. So even if it's the best case scenario on the political realm, there's still a lot to get through. Indeed. Oh, man. And then there's all this talk. It's like not even the top 5% of what we should be worrying about, but the markets, the economy. When like the stock markets got back up to their point that of the pre-COVID dip, I sold half of my. I just have them in index funds, funds in my very meager and tiny retirement funds, just because there's gonna be another much bigger dip, and it's not fun to see what little you have disappear. So it's really like that is something I've been reading, much like the housing recession. Like foreclosures and like the housing market crashed like 2005, 2006, but the economy didn't see it until 2008 because, the markets have ways to kind of flub success, to flub the, stock buybacks and things like that to keep the price of stocks inflated until they run out of those resources, and then that's when you have a crash. And certain things I've read, people are surprised that they still haven't crashed yet. So that's going to happen, and then, well, and like I said, second lockdowns are happening in Europe. I feel like the United States is too gung-ho freedom of choice, well, not freedom of some choices if you're a white man. I feel like definitely the federal government, but definitely even state governments are very hesitant to go back into lockdowns because of how bad it looks. But should they need to, it's not the big businesses and banks that need bailing out, it's the people. That's what's going to make it work. We should be getting paid to stay home. So, yeah, I don't know. That's really wild. It's really wild. Yeah, and the billionaires have gotten billionaire-ier throughout all this. I even think back to, I remember when they first announced kind of lockdown procedures were starting in Washington, and like we went out to a store. Masks weren't a thing then. We weren't wearing masks. I kept my gloves on because I thought that would help me, but there was that weird uneasiness and silence in the grocery store, and empty toilet roll shelves. Don't even COVID test here. I never got a COVID test. I've never felt any of the symptoms. I've been if I cough or have a sneeze, I'll be like, oh, gotta check my temperature, and, that sort of stuff is fine. That doesn't mean I never had it. If I had it, I don't know. But, yeah, it's a real thing we're dealing with. And it's I remember Stephen Colbert who the night of the previous the 2006 election said we as people didn't need to be this involved in politics before. We didn't have to constantly be thinking about politics before. I think that's less of us as a society and more of the rules and the people in charge have now made it that we do have to worry about it. And it would be nice to not have to worry about these things, but we do, because they're not acting in our interests. And if you're part of a certain group, they're acting in your disinterest and actually unsafe. Indeed. Whew, why did I get out of the boat? There's more ocean ahead. This is a doozy. There's Stuff. So much stuff. The girlfriend had us watch the last debate, even though I protested. And that's just tough. Like, neither of them are good debaters, but there's like so much stuff. I'm like, why didn't you say this in response? Why just because there's no reasoning. There's no rationalizing. Well, that's the thing. I don't know what that word means, but that's the thing. I saw so much leading up to the last election about like, oh, it's the, you know, the lesser of two evils, or this or that or the other. And it's like, no. You gotta think in incremental steps. I mean, even if, let's say, Bernie Sanders became president, that wouldn't flip the switch night and day. That could be a spawner down there, but it's also grass. What does an America that is flip switch look like? Well, I don't think that's... I mean, that's certainly not mine to decide. And it's certainly not one person's to decide. And it even maybe shouldn't even be the regular old citizens to decide, because we're supposed to be experts in our old fields, and we just are supposed to be able to elect the people who make those decisions in our interests. Don't watch Farlands or bust when drunk. That is a resolution we can all get behind. Woo, talking so much. Yes, Lon McGregor. I started the stream with a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? Announcement. To say that these are the things we're talking about, and it's perfectly fine not to want to stick around if that's not what you want from your video game streamer. Disclaimer, that's the word. Why can't I think of that word? Indeed. Whew, I'm like exhausted now. Right. I need more. Unexpected. Serious. Oh, I need wood. So serious. How's Wolfie doing on health? Whoop, there that goes. Ooh, buddy. Woof. Well, I guess we're making an elevated hidey hole here, huh? Indeed. Yeah, like I said, I really have no thesis or overall conclusion. Just bleh, bleh. I mean, you can assume certain theses, but I'm not. This is no grand speech or declaration. What's on your minds? E. Careful, Wolfie. Just a bunch of lurky lurks. Perhaps we all just need a breather. Ooh. When was the last precision changed? That was not too long ago. It was like episode 794 or something like that. You have any family friends who turned out to be pro-Trump? I don't see any family anymore. So, not that I'm visibly aware of. I can think of some that might be, just because they've been historically Republican, but I don't know for sure. And I don't talk to these people anyway, so it really doesn't affect, you know, my interaction or anything like that. So yeah, that's tough to deal with. And I like have a few friends whose dad or family or whatever are like that, and that's like I don't know how to navigate that. I wouldn't, I guess, I suppose. Ooh. I'm good. Indeed. I feel like I blasted all my thoughts. Women who like him especially blow my mind. Well, that's the thing. That last election, depending on how you look at it, it was white women who got him elected. Very strange. Well, that's what it's. Yeah, you can't, like I was saying earlier, put your head into that mind space, your mind into that head space. given all the data and information and facts that we have. And for the vast majority of them, it's the tribalism, the sports. It's sports. It's putting a big flag in your yard or on your pickup truck. Right, that's the one thing, Robenja, that I've heard is like our Democratic Party is kind of a right wing party, you know, a lot of other places. And perhaps that's the way it should be. I mean, I didn't take any politics classes or political science or anything like that, but the whole two-party system in and of itself is a bit of a non-mitigating factor in the whole problems we have as well. Well, that's what Washington State does. We do ranked choice. So, like, everybody on the primary tickets is just like, they prefer this party. So, in theory, you could get 2 Democrats on the final ticket. But I feel like it's still so ingrained in just the system that it's even hard to see that result. Uptime. How long have I been doing this? I haven't seen animals in a while. I feel like it's probably near time. Okay, I'll make one more elevated hidey hole. Economic interests. Well, I feel, at least to me, like, I guess I don't know economics, and the vast majority of people don't know economics, so I'm not voting based on economic interests because there are things more important. I mean, certainly things that have been made more important. So yeah, I don't know if I'm being eloquent enough in what I'm saying, but I mean, economically, things are effed. I mean, like, what isn't economics, though? Isn't healthcare economics? I think healthcare should not be controlled by private companies. It should be like every other major nation in the world. It should be socialized. I mean, it's right there. And again, I'm confusing the two documents. It's either in the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. The whole life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That first one, life. You can't have that without health, and you can't have that without health care. And right now, there's a stance that says, well, if you can't afford it, too bad. Um, so, yeah, that's definitely economic. Of course, the people fighting against that are like, well, now your taxes are going to go up. Well, I'm already being taxed $350 and next year $375 per month for this health care that I barely use. And also, that doesn't mean everybody else is covered by healthcare. I'd be happy to pay that, if not more, to get a fair healthcare that also ensures the fair healthcare for everybody else in the country, regardless. And yeah, well, that's another thing. I know you're talking about private versus public schools. I mean, look who he put in charge of the public schools. Somebody who wants everything to be private schools. Um, so yeah, it's a lot of these, to me anyway, things that seem like common sense, common kindness, even common sympathy, that a vocal minority do not believe in or like consider. Even I think is a better word. So yeah, a lot of stuff. Whoa, too much stuff, one could say. Ooh. We didn't even touch. Nay. We didn't even touch the whole police reform thing. No touchy. There's so much stuff to touch. Nay? Nye? Bill Nye. Science guy. Bleh. Fajitas loves serious streams. I don't have the endurance. I couldn't even make it through this 1 hour that we've been doing this. I don't have that kind of energy. It's like there's in our county, there's an election for the sheriff, and there's, the different guides for voting. I was using progressivevotersguide.org or something, and they're like, there's no good choice. They're all like career cops who all have bad ideas. But there is this write-in choice. It's the first time I've ever written anybody in to an election for somebody who wants reform. I don't know, I doubt that they'll get it, but it'll be interesting to see how many votes they got. I wonder if writing in someone is like throwing it. Well, if for this particular one, all of the choices for sheriff are bad. Indeed. When all your apples are bad apples, we might as well start growing something other than apples. Hey! Analogies. Up, 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 up. Indeed. Any final thoughts? So many final thoughts, I can't read them all. Ooh, excuse me. Yawn, Kurt yawn. Yeah, like I said, I don't have any, like, grand solution. Not even solution, or conclusion is the word I meant to say, to this whole thing. Other than I'm pretty positive a lot of us are on the same wavelength. And yeah, it's hopefully going to be a very uninteresting and unexciting and totally bland next few weeks. It's the best I can hope for all of us. And at that, let's dig this final episode, not episode, hidey hole, full-size hidey hole, rather. I appreciate you speaking up about this stuff. Yeah, it's tough to do when you're in a position like ours. But it is something I remember 4 years ago that I, like, felt guilty is the wrong word, but, like, kind of like I ignored it too much. Not that it was like, well, it's all your fault, Kurt. But, yeah, it was just those overwhelming, not even overwhelming, but underwhelming and but constant kind of like anxieties that you shouldn't and can't ignore, but it's very tough. It's very tough to and yeah, just talking about it hopefully makes something, just it stirs the juices so that they don't get all moldy. It stirs the cauldron so that it doesn't separate into various witchery layers. Is that a Halloweeny type of feel? So yeah. Ooh. Cauldron stinks. This cauldron sinks. It's a sink. This cauldron is also my sink. I'm trying to do my dishes. All these dang witches come by and brew things in it. So yeah. Thank you very much for those of you who are watching this on YouTube for sticking around. Sorry, I do feel like I ran out of energy right there for like the last 20 minutes, but yeah, let's go to sleep, and I'll see you in a moment, really, here if you're watching on stream. And pixels. And pixels. What are we up to? 32,021 point something 7 megabytes in the world.